Welcome. Thank you for attending tonight's Your Child in Healthy Relationships webinar. My name is Katie Branson. I'm joined here this evening with Julie Sespico and Margie Carrington. We're glad you're here. Please take a moment to complete our quick survey and provide your valuable feedback. It will be added to the chat for easy access. Please note the following change. Tonight's seminar is the final webinar in our series. The session on bystander intervention will be rescheduled for the autumn. If you need to process any of the subjects discussed tonight, or you're looking for resources for yourself or your family, feel free to call the Ohio Health Sexual Assault Response Network of Central Ohio's helpline at 614-267-7020. We've created a document with all the various school districts' contact information for you. To access it, just scan the QR code on your screen. Again, welcome to the seminar.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We are glad to be back for another session for this series. My name is Margie Carrington, and I am with the Center for Family Safety and Healing, along with my co-facilitator, Julie Sespico. One of the things about our center is that we really promote healthy relationships. And so being a trainer coordinator, we go out into a lot of our middle schools and high schools and even some colleges in the central area, and we discuss healthy relationships and what that looks like. And so we help students start to identify and really recognize what is healthy and what is unhealthy behaviors when it comes to relationships. And so that's really what we're going to do tonight. We're going to discuss how do we start to support our young people when it comes to their relationships. And so we're going to first start out we're going to go through 5 steps that we feel are very important when it comes to recognizing unhealthy and abusive behaviors, and also where do we start? How do we start to have these conversations? And so the first thing we're going to do is talk about step 1, and this is understanding the pressures of teen dating relationships. And so if you can remember back when you were younger, right? Our young people, middle school, high school, it's a time where there's a lot of pressures, and pressure looks a little bit different than how it was when we were younger, because now we have social media, we have technology that now plays a major role in their relationships. And so pressure is going to look a lot different when it comes to that. And we also know that relationships for our young people is so important. That's where they go to for support. They go to for advice. You know, we wish that they would come to the parents, right? But we know that they look towards their peers. And so one of the things that, we see happen with our teens is teens have limited prior relationship experience and may not have a blueprint for healthy relationships. So really think about, this is a new experience for young people. We hear about this when we're at schools. They're learning. They're learning how to navigate relationships, especially when it comes to dating. How do I go up to someone when I like someone? What do I do when I don't feel comfortable with something? And so they really don't know, and this is new. But what we see is they go to their peers. And if they're going to their peers, they are all starting from square one, right? They're getting information from their peers that are going through the exact same experience as them. And we know developmentally, this is important. Relationships, they are right where they need to be for where they're at in their developmentally age, where they're at in their stage of development. And so we know that them yearning for friendships and wanting to have friendships and looking towards dating. Our middle schoolers, this is brand new for them, especially with their friendships. They're learning this. When they start to get into 7th and 8th grade, they start to date, right? They like people. And so all this is those pressures. Another one is teens are highly influenced by norms among their peer groups. And so again, when we're looking at who do our teens go to for advice, if they're going to their friends, they're going to be influenced by their friends. And so what we really want is, how do we get our teens to really come to the adult? How do we get them to reach out to people that can give them good information instead of listening? You know, they're hearing things, and even though they might hear things to their friends, how do we get them to come to us to help them understand what's happening? And so we also need to look at social media, the influencers on social media, and what they're getting when they're looking at TikTok videos, when they're looking at posts on Instagram. How does that influence their ideas of what relationships might be like? One of the things that we do see often is that a lot of these unhealthy behaviors, such as stalking behaviors that we might see play out on some of these social media videos like TikTok, they start to become normalized. So they start to make it seem as though this is okay behavior. And so that can be quite confusing when you see someone on social media and you're thinking, oh, they are so cool. They have like 1 million followers and they must be doing something right? They got all these people following them, so I'm going to listen to them. Maybe this is the right thing to do. And so that can be pressure as well. Another thing that we see when it comes to pressures for children is adults may lack an understanding of the dynamics of unhealthy relationships. And they may not know how to even suspect teens who might be in an abusive relationship. And so for an adult, you may not even realize when a teen is in an unhealthy relationship, because you yourself may not really know what to recognize or even how to identify what some of those red flags are. Another thing that we see too is that as an adult, sometimes those what you might think is okay behavior that your child might be describing to you, it might feel like, oh, this is normal, this is healthy, because you may not understand what healthy is as well. And so we know that when it comes to relationships, we know that we learn about relationships through role models, seeing people, how, we grew up, how our parents' relationships were, how people in the community. So we start to see that as well. So sometimes behaviors that might be unhealthy might become normalized as well. So it might be kind of hard as an adult to really point out, are there red flags happening, or is this relationship healthy? Is it okay? And so again, we already talked about I already mentioned some technology, but again, technology is extremely integrated into the teens' lives. It's not going anywhere, as we know. It's going to be around here on out. So we really do we really need to have an understanding about how teens are using this technology, how it's playing a part, how technology can be used in a way to start to control your partner through social media apps. And so these are just some of the pressures that our teens might experience as they are trying to navigate relationships. And so as we continue to talk about these steps, our focus is going to always go back to conversations. How do we continue to talk? And so our next step is 2, and it is encourage and model healthy and safe relationships. Communicate family values and expectations. And so how do we start to encourage and model what healthy is? What is a safe relationship? And so one of the things that we use when we are speaking with young people, not just at schools, but young people in the community, is we talk about healthy. What are the healthy factors that we should see in healthy relationships? It's important to stress more of the healthy, because a lot of our young people, they really don't know what healthy really looks like. And so we try to focus more on talking about this is what healthy is. Healthy is a comfortable pace, being able to go at your own speed, not being pressured or feeling forced to do things that you don't like. You might want to talk about honesty. Independence is one that I usually spend a lot of time talking about, because I hear young people say, my partner always wants to know where I'm going, or I feel as though I'm being smothered, or I just don't want to talk to them all the time on the phone. I just want to have time to myself, or they're texting me all the time. And so what does that independence look like? What is independence for you? And so being able to talk about that and self-care and really being able to have your own ideas, your own opinions, your own friends, and your own hobbies. Other factors that we talk about is equality. Is the relationship equal? Do you both have equal say when it comes to what goes on in that relationship, or is it all one-sided? And so when it starts to be all one-sided, that's where a lot of those red flags start getting raised, right? When you start feeling as though it's not always fair in this relationship. Compassion, taking responsibility. So really about that accountability. And healthy communication. Healthy communication is huge. We know communication is something that for some people, it can take a lot of work. Some people really struggle with communicating to their partners and with their friends. If you grew up in a house where maybe there's a lot of children and the only way that you communicated was through yelling or screaming, this might be what you think is normal, like to be heard, to be seen, I have to yell, I have to scream, because that's all I did growing up. So this must be okay. And so when I'm in a dating relationship, I might think I have to yell at my partner for her or him to really understand me or really see me or really hear me. And so starting to really think about, again, what some of what we think might be healthy communication could be some of those unhealthy factors that has become normalized to think that it's healthy. And so we really talk through healthy communication and what that looks like and really what that feels like too, because feelings is so important in relationships. How do you feel? That emotional side of a relationship. And so as we're talking about what are these green flags, right? How do we really talk to our children? So this is a great time, these red flags, these green flags, to start a conversation. I was talking to a parent a couple weeks ago, and she said, hey, I really don't need to talk about relationships with my child. My child's too young. They're not there yet. And I say, oh, well, I have this card here. You can start to have these conversations about green flags and red flags. These are some great conversation starters. You can ask questions for, what do you look for in a digital partner? This would be a great question when you are sitting around watching a Netflix movie or anything that you might stream, and you're watching a movie with your child, and it's like a movie around dating or something. This will be a time where you can talk about dating. You're watching a movie about it. Ask them, it's open-ended, and see where that question leads you. Sometimes you might want to ask a question around things like, what would you do if your partner always wants to be around you, or you want time to yourself? Just start having these conversations. Another question you can ask is, when you go out with your dating partner, who pays? Now, this one might seem a little like, why would I ask that question? But you would be amazed to what their expectations are, what their values are, and it really does lead to other conversations just by asking just a question like this. We asked a question we were working with a group of young ladies, and we asked them a question around the height of their partner, if it matters. Interesting enough, we spent a good 15 minutes talking about the height and how height is important in a relationship. So it does start to help you have a better understanding of what your child, what they might like, what they value, what they're willing to do or put up with. All of these questions can lead to that. Just have fun and make it open-ended as you're discussing, having that curiosity as you're having this conversation with them. Now, again, I talked about the parent that was saying her child was too young and didn't really want to start having that conversation, which we get. That is okay. But how can we start having conversations with our younger children? We talk about boundaries, right? With our younger children, we always talk about these boundaries. Boundaries are so important, right? But boundaries, as our children get into 5th grade, 6th grade, when they start to become that preteen age, those friendships start to develop. And so boundaries can become pretty tricky with your child when they start to get into those older grades. And so boundaries where we're telling our child, be assertive. We want you, speak up for yourself. And if you're not comfortable, you need to let them know. Well, that's true. But when your child is 10 or 11, they're at that preteen stage where they are trying to fit in, they're trying to be included, they're trying to make friends. That might be hard, telling my friend, if I tell my friend I don't like that, they may not want to be my friend anymore. I might be excluded. And so how do we help our child navigate that? Those are very challenging. And so that social time for our young people, that's important to them. Their peers are important. And so asking them questions around, what does your gut feel, what does your gut, what happens to your gut when you get that icky feeling? How do you know when something isn't the right thing for you? What names are off limits for people to call you? This is important because if you have a child that is allowing a friend to call them a name, but they really don't like that name, but they're letting the other child call them that name because they really want to be their friend, that can be hard for your child to kind of navigate that. And so really helping them understand that it's okay for you to set the limit, for you to set that boundary. And if that is, for the other child, it's also, it's important that they respect the boundary that you set. If they're your friend, they should accept that. And so that's another way to start having more of these boundary talks, but also introducing these green flags and these red flags to your child about friendships, because these are the same factors that we want in our friendships, not just in our dating relationships. We want people that we can trust and people that respect us, who we call our friends. And so that's important to really start having that conversation with them. And so again, we talked about boundaries. I know Julie and I did a session about Boundaries 101. And so we talked about what talking about boundaries together could look like. One of the things that we talked about was the control over others or personal boundaries. Talking to your children about recognizing what that difference is. What we see in relationships, and it's quite interesting. Julie and I were talking about this earlier about the boundaries and how boundary can be used as a way to manipulate a partner, especially if your child is in high school and they're dating and you hear your child saying, my partner keeps telling me they don't want me talking to my ex because they're uncomfortable with it, and that's their boundary, and I should respect that. That could be one of those moments where you have that conversation around, is it a boundary or is it a way that your partner wants to control who you can talk to and who you can't talk to? What happens if you do talk to your ex? What will happen? Will your partner get upset? What will your partner do? How do you feel when your partner does that to you? And so asking these open-ended questions, talking to your child when they're saying stuff like that. And sometimes, our children will just say things to us. And that is a moment, if you hear that, you're just having a quick conversation and they just say that, to kind of step back and ask that and start to, have that conversation around, this might be a red flag. There might be something else happening in this relationship that I might need to dig a little bit and get some more understanding about, how your partner views certain things, or have more conversation around that. And so another one that we talked about is helping your child really set those clear and those very clear boundaries. And so what comes with this too is when we talk about clear and unclear boundaries, yes, we want our children to be assertive. We want our children to let their boundaries be known. But also, again, we talked about when it can get tricky when it comes to their friendships. The niceness, right? We always teach our children, we want our children to be polite. And that can be another hard thing when our children are taught to be polite. They don't want to be mean to their friends, right? And so we do want them to also learn that when your boundaries keep being crossed, though, it's okay to say it in like your I mean business voice. Like, no, I don't like that. I have a daughter who's a preteen, and it's been tough because she has moments where she says, I don't like this, but they're my friends, and I want my friends to be mad at me, and I'm going to be out the group. But it's also okay for you to have your boundaries out as well. And so they need to respect what you don't like. And so reinforcing that other side of, let them know, be assertive. It's okay. If they don't want to be your friend, it kind of sucks, right? But there are other friends out there as well, right? We know that, but it's tough to say that when we're saying that to our children are just like, no, I just want to be their friends. And so constantly having these conversations. This isn't a one-time conversation. These conversations should be ongoing. The other thing when it comes to setting these boundaries is also the part around the consent part, things that you're okay with. When you're in that dating relationship, or or high school students that are really dating, when they're setting those boundaries or they're in those relationships, saying what they're okay with, that consent, also letting them know consent can be withdrawn. You can withdraw the consent. You might be comfortable with something one day and you may not be comfortable with it another day. You might be comfortable with them holding your hand in that moment. You may not be comfortable 5 minutes later. So it can be withdrawn. And the thing is, they need to respect it when you withdraw that consent as well. So that's the other part that we also need to really teach our children as well. And so I'm going to pass this over to Julie as she talks about step 3.
Thank you so much, Margie. I feel very set up for success, and I'm ready to have some good conversations about healthy relationships. And we are really intentional about setting the stage for those healthy relationship conversations so that we really know what to aim for, and we're not just kind of defining the negative and saying, here's what we don't want. Don't do this in a relationship. Don't do that. So I love that that Margie, we're so intentional about making sure we start with the healthy. What is our vision? What should we aim for? And now digging in a little bit to recognizing and empowering yourself as a parent, a caregiver, a teacher, or somebody who just, has teens that they care about in their life. How we can kind of better recognize is our step 3. So we know that, as much as parents, we talk to so many parents, and so many parents are like, we want to make sure our child is safe. We want, I will do anything to make sure my child is in a safe, healthy relationship. But it's difficult that, we don't talk about it as much when it comes to teenagers experiencing abuse, experiencing unhealthy kind of control in a relationship. So one study from loveisrespect.org or breakthecycle.org showed that 80% of parents believe that teen dating abuse is not that big of an issue, or they admit that they're not sure. Some of the conversations that Margie and I will hear when we're talking to parent groups is, well, that's just kid stuff. That's just like puppy love. It's just that obsessive new, I'm so, into this person, and their hormones are all over the place. So that's just because they're teens that there's such intense, feelings there. So we'll talk more about that. And then a majority of parents could not correctly identify all of the warning signs when we talk about teen dating abuse. So let's look a little bit deeper at what teen dating abuse actually is and looks like. I think one of the biggest myths that we hear is that abuse is it's hitting. It's physical. It's about physical violence, and that if there's not hitting or punching or kicking or anything involving physical force or physical violence, then it's not really abuse, right? That's one of the most common myths that we hear. But when we really dig down under the surface, when we're talking about teen dating abuse, we're talking about power and control. This one partner wanting to have power over the other partner, and a lot of actions that they're taking are to have that power and then keep that power. I get to talk with a lot of students like Margie does, and I was with a group of middle school students, and I asked, hey, if somebody really cares about their partner, they say they love that person, why would they want to hurt them? Why would they want to control them? And this 15-year-old, 14-year-old boy looks at me and he's like, I think some people just want other people to do what they want them to do. They just want them to do what they want. And I just thought that was very insightful. And that's such a clear definition of that power, that wanting control over the other person. We all have those moments as parents, as friends, partners, family members, where we're like, I wish I could make you do just my toddler, just put your socks on. Like, why I want to just make you do what I want you to do. And that's a natural urge, but it's really about how we regulate our own selves and deal with our own well-being so that we don't put that on other people and don't exert that control over other people. So regardless of whether there's any kind of hitting, kicking, any kind of physical violence, when we see these abusive relationships, the most common theme that we see is that need to have control over the other person. So that's really the clearest thing that we look for. We know that statistically this is more common than we realize, and that a lot of parents are not realizing or recognizing as a serious issue. We see statistics showing about 1 in 3 adolescents in the U.S. are experiencing teen dating abuse, which is higher than a lot of other types of youth violence. And again, we have that kind of perception of, oh, but is it really that serious? But unfortunately, we know many instances it has been very serious, and real serious harm can be caused within those even 13, 14-year-old relationships. So we do need to focus on this, and that's why I'm so glad that we get to be here tonight. Margie had already shared this relationship spectrum, which is a tool that we use from loveisrespect.org, and we'll make sure that this is linked so that we really hope that parents and caregivers and educators will take a deeper look at this resource and get really familiar with it. So Margie walked us through the healthy relationship side, which it is important to see this all kind of laid out together. We use this tool with students all the time so that we can really set the expectation that no relationship is perfect. They're all going to fall somewhere on this spectrum. And there's going to be times where me, as a person, a self-proclaimed relationship expert, I'm going to fall in those unhealthy behaviors sometimes. There are going to be times where we all make mistakes or, take out our own kind of frustrations or, things on the person closest to us. So I might have those moments where I'm unhealthy in that yellow zone there in the middle. But that it is a spectrum, and what I can do when I notice that is work aim for that healthy zone and work more toward that healthy zone. So it really helps to kind of break some of the shame around this. We're not walking into a conversation with young people going, well, are you abusive? Is your partner abusive? Like, it's really about normalizing, hey, unhealthy things get normalized, and sometimes and that's not to judge you or judge your partner, but let's talk about what we want in our relationship. So going through, just calling out a couple, like in that unhealthy zone, what we see is instead of that equality, we see this kind of struggle for control or struggle for the upper hand. A lot of game playing, a lot of kind of self-protective behaviors like, well, you didn't text me until 2 hours later, so I'm going to make you wait all day before I text you back, which doesn't seem that harmful. But if you dig under the surface, the root of that is really like, I don't want to look like I care more than the other person. So it is this kind of self-protective thing, but it's more like, I want the upper hand. I want to feel like I'm in control. And when there's this back and forth and both partners are kind of being inconsiderate or they're not communicating, they're not being open about what they really are feeling, that's where we get this kind of back and forth in that unhealthy zone. But where we move into that abusive zone, it's not going back and forth anymore. It's all the way in one person has the power. One person is making those decisions for their partner. Who you're allowed to talk to, who you're allowed to be friends with, who you're allowed to follow on social media, where you're allowed to go, what you're allowed to wear, where you're allowed to sit at lunch. Like, all those decisions start being made for you, and that really points to that control that we talked about. That power and control is really imbalanced. So we encourage you to take a look at this relationship spectrum tool and get familiar with it. Share it with your young folks, and just, like Margie said, talk about it in terms of friendships with your younger folks, or talk about it in terms of dating partners too. Is there anything you would add to this list? Have you ever seen an example of someone being manipulative? Like using those kind of open-ended questions to generate these conversations. It can be a really helpful tool. And then just specifically diving into some of the most common warning signs of abusive behavior would be things like that controlling attitude toward another partner. So you might hear a young person say like, well, you're not wearing those tight leggings, like you're representing me when you go to school, or why you have to wear all that makeup, like you're my girl or you're my person. There's that kind of sense of ownership, which is one of the most common themes that we see with that person who's controlling their partner. It's that sense of ownership. We also see, that normalization of that the abuse is normal or acceptable. So, everyone's snooping through their partner's phone. This is just what people do. Everybody's sharing passwords. I'm not hurting them. This is just how, relationships are. So that kind of normalization, or kind of, I see that as kind of some blame shifting. Like, nothing's ever my fault. Nothing's going to stick to me at all. It's just normal. And then really kind of rationalizing that monitoring, controlling violent or abusive behavior. Going, I heard someone say, well, I wouldn't have pushed her if she didn't say something that stupid. Like, really thinking about that blame shifting behavior. If you wouldn't have worn that outfit, then I wouldn't have gotten so mad and made us go home. I have trust issues, so that's why I have to go through your phone. That's just how I am. I'm just kind of a jealous person. I just care about you so much that I just want to make sure there's no one else looking at you, or that no other girls are talking to you, or no other guys are talking to you. So it's all normalized, and Margie mentioned that accountability and responsibility on that healthy list, that we're going to see the exact opposite here, where nothing ever seems to be their fault. I really love that as a kind of litmus test for my own relationships, my own friendships, and when I talk to other people too, just asking, does this person ever say, hey, you know what, my bad, I messed that up, I'm going to work on that, or I'm going to do better, or I apologize, let me think more about that. That's something I really value in my own self. I'd really at least challenge myself to do that. And I don't think that that's a model of behavior that we have a lot of. So you're going to see with this abusive kind of controlling behavior, we're not going to really see that accountability. It's always going to be the other person's fault. And then when it comes to recognizing some of the signs in your own teen who might be being abused or being controlled in that relationship, you might see them kind of withdraw. I heard a description from one of the survivors of domestic violence that I was talking with of the power and control element. They said it's like their life keeps getting bigger or stays the same, but my life kept shrinking and getting smaller. So when you see your young person maybe retreating from their sporting, things that they love to do, or their music or their band, or just that friend time that was always an important part of their life, you see them kind of withdrawing from that. Or you literally see them kind of withdrawing, kind of shrinking. Honestly, we see things like somebody rapidly losing weight or becoming really kind of obsessive about dieting. Like that's, things that can sometimes crop up with teenagers, but when we see that, especially combined with a new relationship, we want to ask, is there something going on here? Is there some kind of pressure about appearance or weight that they're kind of seeming to shrink within themselves? And then looking for, your young person who seems to be sort of their behaviors are changing. They don't seem like themselves lately. They just are kind of maybe more depressed, more withdrawn, more they're using maybe some coping skills like coping tools like substance use and things like that just don't seem like them. Those are all, especially again coupled with a relationship, those are all some indicators that we want to ask more questions and find out more about what might be going on with them. And then we also see, and Margie's going to take it from here to really look more at that kind of digital dating abuse, but we might see a teen, and you're gonna think, wait a minute, Julie, every teen is obsessed with their phone. But what we really see, I think we all kind of are, first of all, but what we see with young people who are in a controlling relationship, there is this big reaction when we say, hey, let's put the phones away for now, let's put the phones away for dinner, or hey, I want to have a conversation, can you set that down? And that there's this big reaction to it, like, I need my phone right now, and you're noticing text after text after text is coming through, or I have to respond to their call right now, or it's going to be bad. Asking in those moments, like, is this just my teen really interested in their phone and not wanting to talk to mom or dad? Or is there something more going on here, especially when we see those consistently, constant calls coming in or texts coming in? That can be an indicator of what Margie's going to talk about, which is digital dating abuse.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. You're right. So some of those indicators that, your child could be experiencing some form of abuse online, which is digital dating abuse. So we're going to talk about the definition of that here in a second. But step 4 is really recognizing the role that technology can play in your teen's relationships and in their friendships. And we talked about this, in step 1 and step 2, the role that technology really has on your young person when they are really using social media apps. Julie was talking about the student with, wanting to force, asking them where they're going, what they're doing, or they can't wear this shirt, or what picture, take that picture down. I don't like that outfit that you had on in that picture. Those are all indicators that there could be some abuse happening in that relationship. And so what is teen dating? What is digital dating abuse? But it's all the same. Teen dating abuse, digital dating is a form of abuse. And so digital dating abuse is the use of technologies. And it's really, the technology can be texting, it can be social media. But what you'll see is bullying, harassment, stalking, intimidation. All this you'll start to see happen. And it all goes back to power and control. because that is really what abuse is about. It is about a partner wanting to have all the power and all the control over their partner. And so we see things happen like this online, and we know that oops, I kind of went through too fast. We know that 1 in 4 teens is harassed or abused through technology. And so when you really think about that, it's happening. And one of the things that I tend to ask students all the time, especially when we're talking about TikTok. We know TikTok is one of the most popular social media platforms that most young people are using. And so I'll ask them, tell me something that you're seeing. Tell me have you ever seen anything inappropriate? Everyone tells me, they start telling me, oh, I see, this person being called a name, harassment, bullying, this happens all the time. And so they start telling me what they are seeing. So we know this is happening. And it's happening not with strangers. It's happening with your child's peers, people that they know in the school. They fall out. They might get called a name. They might get outed. They might get, a picture on like a offensive or spam account from a secondary account from Instagram that they posted. That could be used against them in blackmail. One of the things that we hear about is for Snapchat is Snap streaks. I started to think about a lot of our teens, they do these streaks, right? And I've had a student say, my partner got upset with me because I broke their streak. I had to keep the streak going. I didn't want to. And they got mad at me. And so it seems, when your child is saying, hey, my partner's mad at me. Well, what are they mad about? Oh, I broke the streak. It might seem like that's no big deal, but it could really be that was a way that the partner could really be wanting to control how much they're talking to them, what they're doing, always wanting them to check in. So that could be that you need to check in with me all the time. Every single day, I need you to check in with me. Every hour on the hour, you need to be checking in. And so some of those things to really see. I keep going fast. So we also know that teens reported equal rates of digital monitoring and control as well as digital direct aggression. So even though that the rates might be equal, we also know that young girls are reporting to have more frequent digital sexual coercion or victimization and more negative emotional responses. So what we see is young ladies, even though it might be equal, it's having the most negative impact on young females when it comes to that. They might be asked to take more nude pictures or send more inappropriate things or feel that pressure. They might get called blackmailed or called names, and so that could happen as well. And so we do see this happen because, like I said, we're out in the schools a lot. So we get to hear about what's going on. And so when we see the reports and when we read the research, we know this is happening. I just don't know what's going on with my clicker. So another statistic that we would like to, call attention to is the LGBTQIA and how teen dating abuse affects them, especially digital dating abuse. We find that 26% of heterosexual youth have the higher forms, but we also see 37% of the LGBTQIA community it's higher when it comes to that, and it's 56% when it comes to our trans youth. And so when we really look at those numbers, it really, when you really start to think about why are their numbers a little bit higher, and a lot of it is really they have to kind of hide those relationships because it may not be accepted. They may not have came out to their families. And so the only way for them to really have those relationships is online. So they might have their talk to their partner online way more. This is where it's happening. Their relationship is online. They might meet people online. And so the abuse, the harassment, all that it's going to go up because this is where they're at. And really, if we really think about that they have to really kind of hide their relationship and that they are having more experience of digital dating abuse than anyone else, we really need to look at why do they have to hide it. And we know, they may not get that support that they need from adults. They may not be able to really come out and talk about those relationships to the adult or the caregiver and their life teachers, whoever that may be. And so because of that, I have to keep this secret. I can't tell anyone. So I really I'm going to go online, and that's where my support is. My support is those that are online. And so that's why we start to see those numbers get higher. Another thing, when it goes to talking, again, how do we start to talk and have these discussions with our youth? We're talking about digital dating abuse. And how do we start conversations around dating and technology? We know this is awkward anyways. We know whenever we start talking about dating, relationships, it can be uncomfortable for some people, especially our children. Sometimes they're like, oh no, I don't want to have that conversation with you, the talk. But really, the talk doesn't have to just be about the intimacy. The talk needs to also be this other talk where we're really just talking about what are the green flags, the red flags. Let's start talking about boundaries. This is a part of the talk, not just the other side. That other side, that can be, a little awkward. But we don't want these conversations to be awkward. We want them to be, we want you to become like that askable parent. And so one of the things you can do is remind your young people of their digital rights. We talk to our students about this. This goes right back into those boundaries, right? I'm not going to read through all of them, but one of them is like you have the right to keep your passwords to yourself. You don't have to share your passwords. We hear a lot of teens that say, yes, we share passwords. And so these are just, we can also you can have a copy of this as well, so you can read over it, so you can also share this with your teen. And so support safety for your teens. We'll end it with that.
Thank you, Margie. Yeah, so, the next logical question is, okay, like, what if I talk to my teen about healthy and I talk to them about, digital boundaries and knowing their digital rights, and I'm learning, oh gosh, there is something happening there and I don't know exactly what to do to help my teen who might be experiencing that control or that abuse. That's a really difficult place for parents to land. It's difficult for educators, and it's very simple for us to want to, or it's very natural for us to want to go, just break up with them, just stop dating them, and I'm locking you in a little bubble and I'll keep you safe that way, right? Which we can have like a parent support group for that. We get it. It's understandable. But it's important to recognize that just telling your teen like just leave the relationship or just get out is not helpful advice. And as lovingly as you might say it because you care so much, what it often sounds like to a victim of abuse is you think it's my fault for staying. You think it's my fault for being in this situation. So no matter your intentions, it's not going to be received the way you want it to. And so we just say, get rid of that vocabulary, like, why don't you just leave or just break up? And the other part of it is just not that simple. If it was that simple, we wouldn't have abusive relationships, right? People would just leave. But there's many factors, and Margie talked about a lot of those kind of pressures, needing to feel that sense of support. A lot of abusive relationships involve a lot of isolation. So whittling down your support system. Don't talk to those friends. Don't tell your parents about us. Just kind of whittling down your sense of support so you do feel really isolated when you're ready to leave. And the biggest thing is that it's not safe to push someone to leave an abusive relationship until they feel safe enough to leave, until they feel ready. Because the most dangerous time in an abusive relationship is when the relationship is ending, and then up to a year or even 2 years after the relationship is over. We see increased harm, physical harm, we see increased stalking after the relationship is ending. So we definitely want to make sure that we're coming to our young people with curiosity rather than judgment, trying to think about more coulds than shoulds, because no one likes to be should on. I said should. That we really, want to offer kind of reflection. So, hey, like, do you feel like you can disagree with your partner? Does it feel like you can spend time with your friends? Giving them those spaces to reflect for themselves instead of saying, I am your mother and I've decided that your relationship is unhealthy, right? That's the best way to drive a wedge. But what we want to do instead is give them an opportunity to reflect for themselves on those healthy relationship factors, on some of that relationship spectrum, and then just primarily reassuring them that you're going to be there for them and that you don't blame them and that you believe them and that their experience is valid. And then we really want to pair any concerns of safety in a relationship. We really want to pair that with some opportunities for safety planning. So you don't have to be the expert on safety planning, but we encourage you to think about it from that safety concern, not you need to leave or you just get out, but to say, hey, I'm concerned. I'm worried about your safety. I'm worried about your well-being. And, can I offer you some of these resources that I've heard of? So just a few of those, and then we'll close out for some question and answer time. Just a few resources that we'll make sure are linked is one we mentioned, loveisrespect.org. They have a wonderful customizable safety planning tool. And one of the things we like about it is that you can enter your pronouns, you can enter your partner's pronouns. So it really makes, it really helps teens to feel seen and like it's not just this kind of one size fits all, but it's more customizable. Another one that we really like is an app that you can download. It's called One Love My Plan. The app is called My Plan app. And there's, again, that more kind of customizable plan because every situation is very unique and is going to require different elements of safety planning. And then the last resource that we really want to highlight is a cyber safety plan, a digital safety plan for that technology abuse that Margie talked about. So this one is really designed to consider, are they following your location? Did they install some spyware on your phone that you're not even aware of? Helping think through some of those kind of digital safety concerns that are just ever evolving. So we definitely want to leave you with some good resources, and you're not alone in this conversation. And the Center for Family Safety and Healing is here. Check out our website. We have lots of good information too, and ways to get in touch with us if you want to talk through any of these kind of concerns that you're having. So with that, I will hand it back over to Katie.
Okay, we do have a question this evening. What should I do if my child tells me her boyfriend does not like her hanging around with her friends without him?
Yes, so that I think Margie had mentioned a situation earlier where it's like, I'm not allowed to talk to my ex anymore, or we definitely see this dynamic where it's like, you're not allowed to have friends that are guys or friends that are girls, or you're not allowed to hang out with certain friends unless I'm there. And if we really think about it, it's rooted in a sense of sometimes insecurity, but primarily that's a control thing. And so really, I think what I would just, want to start by is asking that young person, what does that look like when you say they don't like it, or they don't want you to, or they don't let you? What does that look like? Would it cause an argument? Can you tell me more about what they said? And just kind of ask some of those more open-ended questions to get a little bit more understanding about what we're working with here. And then I'll pause there, Margie. Do you have anything you would contribute there?
No, I think that you are saying what I would say. And it is just that moment, having that question of, what will happen if you do, if you continue to hang out with them? What happens when you invite your partner with you do they act different? How do they act around your friends? You know, are they kind of, you know, how do their behavior change? Some of those indicators, because even though your partner is saying that, like, I need to be around, I don't want you hanging with them. Well, if you invite them, what happens then? Are they still trying to keep you away? What does that look like? So, you know, really just asking those open-ended questions. And, you know, you can, as your child answers one question, it can lead into another question, And so that can really help you understand, okay, this might be something that we might have to get more support on. I might have to support my child a little bit more with, because again, we know it is hard, especially if your child really likes that person. And so that can be challenging as well, but really starting to get them to see what some of those red flags are, and maybe let's look at love is respect. Let's go into love and respect, and let's see what they might have to say about this. And so that could be a way to use one of those resources with your child.
And I think I would just like want to use that as an opportunity to reinforce, like, you have the right to have a good group of friends. Like, you have the right to have that independence. Like, I think going back to our earlier conversation, just reinforcing, like, you have the right to be your own person separate from your partner. And that doesn't mean that you're not a good girlfriend or a boyfriend or that you're not a good partner, but that's an important part of who you are. And I know you value those friends. So using that too as an opportunity to, like, reinforce those human rights, I think.
Here's another question, kind of speaking to this idea of privacy. So what do you say to a young person who thinks it's okay for their partner and them to follow each other's location on Life 360 or iPhone?
That's one we hear a lot, and it's so normalized, wouldn't you say? Like, I mean, I was talking to like a 14-year-old the other day in a program, and she mentioned, like, my boyfriend and I have been together for 3 years, I think she said, and we always follow each other on Life 360. I think it was Life 360, and she's like, it's good because it helps us know where each other is safe, and it can even tell you, like, is their battery low? Are they on their phone? Like. And she's like, it's so great that we can keep each other safe. So I had to take a moment for myself. Margie, would you, how would you want to answer that one?
I think, you know, really looking at what is the intent behind it. Do you have freedom to say no?
Yeah.
You know, like, really, what is the reason behind it?
Yeah.
If you don't want to do it, what happens?
Yeah.
Is that a problem? If you say, no, I don't want to do this. But really looking at that intent, the intention behind it. We know it's for, you know, yes, it could be used that, oh, it's for safety, and I just really want to know where you're at. But really, if I say, no, I don't want to, you know, try to figure out, you know, what's that intent behind.
Yeah, asking, like, you know, what would happen if you didn't take your phone with you when you went to school that day? Like, would that cause a fight? Like, or how would they react if you just had your phone off when you were with your friends after practice? And just asking them those questions, and they might go, oh, it'd be fine. But you're planting a seed, you're offering kind of some reflection time for them that they might kind of reflect for themselves. Because the reality is, like, no one's ever gonna flat out say, like, Margie, you're my girl and I need you to be on your phone at all times because I'm gonna check up on you. Nobody says it like that, right? It's always cloaked in safety and I just care about you so much. So giving them an opportunity to reflect on, do they really have the freedom? I think that's a great word, Margie.
Mm-hmm.
Another question here. How can I help my child learn how to be more clear on their boundaries with their friends?
This is one that we have talked about many times. You can take it. I know you spoke a little bit about your experience with your daughter.
Yeah, I think just reinforcing the I mean business, meaning the assertive voice. And I like to, say that I mean business voice, because that means like I'm serious, and that can be not always that politeness.
Yeah.
You don't have to be polite when someone keeps crossing your boundary.
Yep.
You can, because, we can cross boundaries. We may not know that is a boundary and we might cross it, but letting that person know, hey, I didn't like that. I didn't like that name that you called me, so don't call me that name anymore, right? Now you spoke the boundary. Now you're just reinforcing it, continue to have the conversations. I really believe in these can't be just a one-time conversation. They have to be ongoing. You can have these conversations at the dinner table, right into, soccer, whatever it is, extracurricular activity, to the store. It doesn't matter. Just have these conversations whenever you can and don't stop having them. I think they're just important conversations that we need to always have with our children. And also it's a great way for you to know what's happening with your child's life. And again, becoming that askable parent where your child will come to you.
And I would just add, it also, and this brings right back to what you said right in the beginning, we got to do our own work too. Yep. And that's valid. And if you're I am working on my own boundaries. I mean, I'm still working on practicing assertive communication and saying, hey, I'm allowed to have needs that are different than other people's. So, I mean, also just support for you as parents or, on your journey of figuring out your boundaries too. And modeling that is gonna help your child see and learn from you, which is really cool, actually.
Thank you. Julie and Margie, thank you for giving us the language to understand and strategies to address healthy relationships. And thank you for attending tonight's seminar. If you need support or resources for yourself or your child, please don't hesitate to reach out to the 24-hour helpline at 614-267-7020. We've also created a document with all the various school districts' contact information for you. To access it, just scan the QR code on your screen. And finally, we hope you found value, knowledge, and inspiration in this session. We've placed a short survey link in the chat, and we'd love to get your feedback. Again, thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your evening.